Thanks so much, everyone, for attending our webinar. My name is Skylar Cohen, and I'm a digital content specialist here at 42 Gears. This is my co-presenter, Aminder Singh, who's a pre-sales engineer here at 42 Gears. Today, we're going to be talking about kiosks, what they are, what they do, what risks they present, and how to protect against them. We'll start with a review of the kiosk industry, followed by the tools that 42 Gears provides you to address a range of issues. Then, Aminder will provide a live demo, which I'll recap afterwards, and we'll conclude with a question and answer session. All right, let's get started. When did you last use a kiosk? Was it a retail kiosk that helped you shop? Was it an informational kiosk at a school or hospital that helped you find your way? Was it an ordering kiosk at a restaurant that allowed you to specify and customize your order? Or a point-of-sale kiosk when checking out that allowed you to skip a line? Was it meant to serve as a sign when no one was using it? These are all important roles that kiosks serve in 2020. When you last used a kiosk, what operating system was it running? Did it have the distinct form factor of an Apple device? The navigation buttons associated with an Android device? The iconic desktop interface of a Windows device? All three are popular kiosk options. Together, all of the kiosk types and operating systems I just mentioned make up the kiosk ecosystem of 2020. Kiosks can handle all kinds of scenarios, but every scenario brings new challenges, and there are a few especially worth mentioning. First, let's look at a couple of challenges associated with the initial setup of a kiosk. The first challenge we will be considering is interface design. Especially if you are planning to have customers use kiosks, you need to view the interface of those kiosks as a big part of the customer's experience. Providing too much dense information can overwhelm the user, but an interface that is too sparsely populated can mean you miss critical chances to upsell your product. Now, let's consider the second challenge, integrating kiosks and peripherals. You can't afford to view kiosks in isolation. Some of the most effective kiosk installations rely on integrating kiosks with other devices like printers and sensors. If kiosks are smart devices, then these other devices are not so smart devices. Let's just call them things. In order to provide users with a painless and compelling experience, you will need to plan your overall device network carefully, not just the kiosks, but any things that interact with the kiosks as well. Let's shift from design-focused concerns to security concerns. Once you set up your network of kiosks, the real challenge begins. Finding ways to secure your kiosks against the onslaught of threats that will inevitably come their way. We can identify three major kinds of security threats. The first kind of security risk is displaying off-topic content. This may include broadcasting pornography or other adult content in public locations. Although sometimes designed to damage a company's reputation, oftentimes people are simply interested in seeing how much they can get away with on devices in public locations. The second major kind of security risk is that kiosks will simply stop displaying anything. They will either go dark or show something like the infamous Windows blue screen of death. If kiosks stop working like this for long periods of time, it can be unsightly and trigger customers to be very frustrated, especially if there's a long and public repair process that speaks to the company's lack of preparation for this exact kind of event. The third major type of security risk we will discuss is the risk that a kiosk seems to be working properly, but is secretly sending information to an unintended third party. Companies rightly fear this kind the most, as data breaches severely damage any customer's trust in a brand. All right, let's shift gears to review the capabilities of 42 Gears device management software, SureMDM. SureMDM includes a range of features that let you keep your kiosks in shape and up to date, whether you already own them or are hoping to own them soon. First off, SureMDM lets you manage all of your business devices, including kiosks, from a single central console you can run from anywhere. You or your admins can even manage kiosks from home most of the time. You can also set policies that dictate how kiosks can be used and troubleshoot kiosks remotely. SureMDM also includes software for locking down kiosks, called SureLock. You can keep users focused with just one app or several. You also get access to a range of customization options and can even create a password exclusive to the lockdown settings menu to ensure no one can change these settings. SureMDM also includes SureFox, a secure browser that lets you control everything about the way users can access the web, including what sites they can or can't access, plus a safe way to deliver web-based applications. You can even lock it down to a single website if you'd like. Finally, SureMDM also includes SureVideo, a secure video player application. This will lock down a device to only the videos or images you would like the kiosk to display, and let you repeat a playlist in a loop. All right, I'm now going to hand the floor over to Aminder, who will show us how to use SureMDM to manage a kiosk, in this case, a retail kiosk in a mall.
Thank you, Skylar. Hello, everyone. This is Imninder Singh, and I work as a pre-sales engineer with 42 Gears. So let's start with the demonstration today. Perfect. So this is my SureMDM account here, and as Skylar mentioned, today we will be demonstrating with a retail kiosk. So as you can see now, we have enrolled one kiosk machine here with the name of Kiosk 001. So on the left side here, we have a grouping structure where you can create a group and assign your kiosk machines to specific locations and or specific departments. The creation of groups is very simple. All you need to do is click on this add button and enter the name of new group which you want to create on SureMDM. So once you click on OK, this group will be created here, and then whatever kiosk machines or devices you will enroll, they will be placed under that specific group. Now these groups can help you managing your kiosk really easy in future. Then this center location is called as device grid. This will give you complete information of your devices, like their online status, their battery, when they were last connected to SureMDM. And then we do have a drop-down list. So we basically fetch a lot of data points from the devices when they are enrolled into SureMDM. So as you can see, this is a huge list here. So you can select and choose what exactly you want to see on SureMDM. Then installed application version also helps if you want to have a controlled version of your kiosk application. Now on the right side of the screen, we do have a device info section, which shows you the information of your selected device, like the operating system of your device, the Bluetooth name of your device, and then what agent version is installed on it, what was the last device time. And of course, along with that, we also show the network information of your devices, like if they're connected to any Wi-Fi, the name of their Wi-Fi, and the signal strength of that particular Wi-Fi. And if your kiosk machines are having the SIMs, we also show the name of the carrier and the signal strength of mobile data. So then we also show the storage memory and program memory of your kiosk machines. On the right side here, we have a quick panel, which actually helps the IT admins to troubleshoot the devices. So let's take a remote of one of the kiosk machines that is enrolled here. So I already have a remote support opened up. As you can see, we have a kiosk machine here. This is just an example of one of the kiosks, one of the retail kiosks, I would say. So it can be an automotive showroom kiosk, it can be a retail banking outlet kiosk, it can be school, university, or hotel lobbies. Shopping mall entrances kiosk. I mean, you can include any of those references and you can manage all your kiosks from SureMDM. So let's say if we have to do some sort of troubleshooting, right now this kiosk is in a lockdown mode. So we cannot access anything outside of this application. So let's exit a lockdown mode on this device. All we need to do is we have to push out a job to exit the kiosk. Now you can see that I have applied a job to exit the kiosk onto this device, and this job has been successfully deployed onto our devices. And now when I take a reboot and if I refresh the screen of this device, we will see that this is just a normal Android device at the back end. Now, IT admins, if they have to make some changes on the device, they can actually do a remote control of the devices from SureMDM. For example, if we just want to make some changes in the settings of the devices, maybe under the display settings, so we can remotely control the device and click on display settings, make the changes that we need to make, and then just click on home button. Once the troubleshooting is over, we can actually again push a job from SureMDM to launch the kiosk again. And there you go. So if I push out this job onto my device, we will see this job is in a pending state and it will move to in progress. And then once this is deployed successfully, our devices or this particular device at this moment will be in a kiosk lockdown again. So as you can see, let me take a remote again of this device. So this is how your devices will be back in a lockdown mode. So basically, SureMDM's remote control will help you to troubleshoot your devices present at any location. And you can also do the remote control events on that. Now, next part here is in case if you want to push out some applications from a Play Store onto your kiosk machines. So you can do that from a profiles section. So you can either create a new profile or modify the existing one. Go to application policy. And as you can see here, I have multiple applications downloaded from a Play Store on the device. To add new application, click on Play for Work, search and select whatever application you want to push out onto your devices. And then same application will be added here in the list. And then all you need to do is just save this profile and push it out onto your devices. The applications will be installed silently onto your kiosk machines. Now, the next part I want to show you here is jobs. So jobs are basically the policies or the actions that we want to do on devices. We first create inside jobs and then we push out on the devices. As you can see from SureMDM, we can also manage Windows, iOS, Android, and many other operating systems. Your kiosk machines can be running on iOS or Windows too. So you can also manage those kiosk machines. So now let's talk about time fence job. So time fence job here, so we have enabled this option. We can say that let's assume that all of the shopping malls, they open up at somewhere around 10 in the morning. So we can set a start time of this fence at somewhere in the 10 in the morning. Yeah. And then the end time is the midnight. So we can also select the days on which days this fence should remain active on the devices. We also have an option to choose the device time. In case if your kiosks are distributed over different geographical locations and they have different time zones, now this fence will work according to the device timing. So we can say that when devices are inside the fence, we make sure that short lock settings, which is a kiosk lockdown, remains active on these kiosk machines. So during the inside fence, they will always remain in a lockdown. And at the midnight, you might want to just reboot a device. So sometimes a normal reboot brings device up to the speed. So we can assume that during midnight, no one will be next to the kiosk machines, and you can just push out a reboot job onto the devices. Now the next job here is compliance for kiosks. We have multiple compliance jobs. So let's talk about jailbroken and rooted compliance. Here we can set a compliance that all of our devices should be either non-rooted or non-jailbroken in case of iOS. And if any device falls out of that particular compliance, we can move them to blacklist. And similarly, next compliance that we have here is online device connectivity. So if any of our device is not connected to SureMDM for 3 continuous days, we can push out any specific job to the devices. As I mentioned, sometimes reboot just solves every problem. So you can push out a reboot kiosk job, and at the same time, you can push out email notification to your support team or IT admins. Third compliance here is device storage. You can say that all of your devices should have more than 20% free storage. And if it goes beyond that, you can push out a job to clear the storage of your devices. So this whole process becomes an automated process. All you need to do is, while deployment, just apply and push out this job. Then next job is file transfer. In multiple cases, the applications that are running on kiosk machines, they might need some HTML files to display some discounts or some offers running at the moment. You can actually push out those HTML files or any content from SureMDM to your devices. SureMDM will create a folder where whatever you specify here on the devices and push out content into that. Then we also have run script jobs, which you can push out onto your kiosk machines. Now these run script jobs can be a shell commands that you want to execute on your devices. If you have any settings that you want to change, you can push out the run script jobs onto your devices. So this is how 42 Gears helps in managing kiosks, and it can be any sort of kiosk present present anywhere. Maybe automotive showrooms, as I mentioned, hotel lobbies, shopping centers. So this is how it works. And thank you. So over to you, Skylar.
All right. Thanks so much, Aminder. We'll spend the next section of our webinar recapping how SureMDM can solve the problems we've mentioned so far. Let's look back at the first challenge I mentioned earlier, creating an appealing and user-friendly interface. Aminder only showed a little bit of this functionality, but it is absolutely available for you to use. If you are looking to brand your interface or control the density of information present, SureMDM can help. Using SureMDM's lockdown solution, you can hide apps that are not relevant for users, add company logos, and rearrange the interface to look better with fewer options on screen. You can even include custom branding in the SureMDM web browser and video player to make sure customers associate your brand with the retail experience at all times. Let's look back at the second challenge I mentioned earlier, helping to ensure that kiosks work well with peripherals. You caught a glimpse of how SureMDM can support a diverse device ecosystem in Aminder's demo, and I wanted to highlight that 42 Gears has created groundbreaking things management technology. Your organization can code custom things connectors that let you monitor and manage all kinds of connected devices, including printers, charging cradles, and more, from the same console you use to manage your kiosks and any other devices. Let's look back on the third challenge I mentioned earlier, the difficulties associated with repairing kiosks. As Aminder showed us, perhaps the most exciting reason to manage kiosks with SureMDM is the ability to remotely access and troubleshoot devices in a hurry. Many potential kiosk shutdowns can be fixed quickly via remote troubleshooting. Using the central SureMDM console, admins can view the screens of devices that are acting up and even control them remotely. Let's review the first major security challenge I mentioned earlier, ensuring kiosks only display the content you want them to display. If IT admins cannot rely on every kiosk having the same OS and apps installed, then repairs become more difficult, and displaying off-topic content becomes easier. As Aminder showed us, you can use SureMDM to push the same app and OS versions to every kiosk in your organization. If critical security updates appear, you can push them to all devices right away or schedule them for a time when the kiosks are not in use. Let's review the second and third security threats that I raised. Kiosks crashing and kiosk data being leaked to a third party. In order to bolster customer trust and keep kiosks working as well as possible, you will need to implement comprehensive security measures that are sufficiently flexible to deal with the ever-evolving technology threat landscape. And 42 Gears has the tools that you need. With SureMDM, you can establish permissions for kiosks based on time of day or network connection status, like the time fence that Aminder showed us earlier. For example, you can deny access to e-shopping apps after business hours, or if users find a way to connect to an unsecured Wi-Fi network. You can also detect rooted or jailbroken devices and automatically trigger disciplinary action. If you need to deliver web-based apps to a kiosk, you can now do so via the secure SureMDM browser, which maintains an encrypted connection at all times. I'll now hand the floor over to Aminder again to discuss one of our most exciting partnerships, active management technology in collaboration with Intel.
Thanks, Skyler. So 42 Gears have also integrated with Intel AMT, which means in case if you are using Windows kiosk machines and if they are Intel AMT supported, we can even turn them on and off anytime. The only thing that we need is those devices to remain connected either to Wi-Fi or an Ethernet cable. So you can completely turn on or completely turned off devices from a remote location. Skyler, next slide, please. So with 42 Gears and Intel AMT integration, you will have a BIOS level control on your Windows devices, which means, as I mentioned, you can turn your devices on and off at any time. You also get enhanced full KVM capability of your devices, which means if your devices are turning on or if the operating system is not up and running yet, you still have a capability using SureMDM to manage those devices. One of the example I would say here is maybe because of power failure, if your devices turns off, and then the traditional way to turn them on would be you have to send some technician to turn those machines back on. But with SureMDM, if they are connected to Wi-Fi or an Ethernet cable, you can turn those machines on remotely and they can be present at any locations. So the use cases are you have a power control for your devices outside of business hours. You can access the BIOS with the UEM tools, which means if there are any issues with the operating system of the devices, you can actually boot into the BIOS level and fix the malfunction that has happened to the operating system of the devices. So any normal MDM, they work over operating systems, but with the integration with Intel AMT, we have a capability to boot into the BIOS level and fix any hardware issues also. So that's how the integration of 42 Gears and Intel AMT can be very helpful in Kiosk management. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Skyler.
Great. Thanks, Aminder. To reiterate what we've said so far, you can use 42 Gears software to keep tablets safe and make them perfect to use as kiosks. I just wanted to emphasize that this can be done with any tablet you purchase off the shelf, making the process of setting up a secure kiosk cheaper and easier than otherwise possible. Thank you so much for submitting your questions throughout the webinar. We'll take about 2 or 3 minutes to wait for people to finish submitting their questions, and then we'll get started with the question and answer session. All right, it looks like we're in the position to start the Q&A. Are you ready, Aminder?
Yes, definitely.
Great. So our first question asks, is it possible to exit kiosk mode from the kiosk screen itself?
Yes, it is possible to exit a kiosk mode from a kiosk screen itself, but for that you need to know the secret password which is being applied by SureMDM onto the kiosk machines. So, which means that any user who comes up and start using the kiosk machines, they will not be able to exit kiosk, but the admins who knows the password, they can definitely go ahead and exit the kiosk.
Great. So our next question asks, when applying profiles, do they run automatically or do you have to apply them to each device?
No, so they do not run automatically because we do not want to, make some changes which actually you do not want them to apply on the devices. So let's say you made some changes and those are not the right changes. So we try to protect that part. So what you have to do is you can, modify your profiles or create new profiles. Then you can select the entire group and with just one single click, you can apply that particular profile to all of your devices. So basically, you have to manually apply the profile onto your devices after the modifications.
Okay, so the next question is, do you support Windows 7, 8, and 10 kiosks or just Windows 10?
Yes, definitely. We support all Windows versions. It can be 7, 8, and 10. And there are older versions of Windows also, like Windows Mobile and Windows CE. None of those are used in Kiosk, but we still support them as well.
Okay, and so our next question is, is the same console used for Android and iOS devices if you're managing both of them using the SureMDM console?
Yes, that's right. So basically, SureMDM is a UEM solution, so Unified Endpoint Management. You can have Windows device enrolled, Mac OS, iOS, Android, wearables, any operating system will be managed by just one single console, that is SureMDM console.
Okay, and so I think the last question that we have time for today is, if I have any Intel chip, can I use AMT?
So it requires specific processor, chipset, and a networking component. So basically, if you want to know that if you have any Windows machine and will it support Intel AMT or no, you have to basically check with the processor and the chipset that is mounted on that particular device. And the best way to check it is installing a mesh commander onto your devices that will help you to know if your devices are AMT supported or not.
Okay, it looks like there's one more question. Do SureMDM equipped kiosks support multi-app lockdown or just single app lockdown?
Oh, yes, definitely. We support multi-app lockdown also. So the example that I have shown you today was with the single application mode. And if you have multiple applications for your kiosk machines, you can whitelist all of them into a kiosk mode. And same scenario works for iOS and Windows devices too.
Okay, okay, really one last question now. Someone asks, do you have a free trial or some kind of way to get started with this?
Yes, so you can go to our website, that is 42gears.com, and from there you can register a free trial for yourself. This free trial will be available for 30 days and you can enroll up to 5 devices with all features and functionalities available on SureMDM.
Great, that looks like all the time that we have for the Q&A. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We'd love to talk to you. Yeah, we'd love to talk to you if you have any questions or any comments. Please email sales@42gears.com or call the number on the screen. If you have any other questions or you'd like to learn more about SureMDM, feel free to visit 42gears.com. Thank you so much and have a good day.